This week we're going to share about the subject of effective personal ministry. I say effective because lots of people who are in the so-called ministry are not effective. They don't ever really help anybody. And we have, in the cultures that have been Christian over the years, made ministry just a position and a profession. So I want us to learn how we can be effective in ministry. I say personal because if I ask some of you what your ministry was, you would say, well, my church does this, or Youth with a Mission does this, or the group that I belong to does this. But what about you personally? What is your ministry? And many Christians have gone to their grave never realizing that they had ministry or ever doing ministry, because they were told they were a lay person, somebody to just sit and listen. And then I say ministry because we really have some confusion about what ministry is. I went from high school straight into a Bible college. And I studied 4 years in this Bible college, and I don't have anything negative to say about it because you can't study the Bible for 4 years and have it be anything other than positive. It was a wonderful experience. But I walked across a platform at the end of that time in a commencement exercise and received a bachelor's degree in Bible. And this Bible college had a little tradition where they would shake your hand with the right hand and they would hand you your BA degree with the left hand. And they would say to each graduate, you are now prepared for the ministry. And you know, I've been studying the Bible ever since, and I can't find that phrase anywhere, the ministry, as opposed to the rest of the Christians. And so we have moved on that really for centuries, where we have had a clergy and a laity. And there's a lot of misunderstanding about what ministry is. And I think we would all agree that next to Jesus Christ himself, Paul is probably the best example we have for what ministry ought to be and somebody who had an effective personal ministry. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about why was Paul effective in his personal ministry and how can we use these same principles to be effective with him. Because do you agree that next to Jesus Christ himself, probably in history, the person who was most effective in ministry probably was the Apostle Paul. Ministry starts with your life. It does not start with your knowledge. That is the big mistake in the church over the centuries, is that we have qualified leaders by education, not by lifestyle. And then we wonder why we have so many leaders who end up molesting somebody, or are in bed with the wrong person, or who are off doctrinally. Because being off doctrinally does not normally come from a lack of education. It actually comes by people who have studied a lot. And it comes from people who develop an arrogance and a pride in their life rather than being ignorant of biblical truth. Much of the heresy of the Christian church over the centuries has come from seminaries. But the issue of ministry and effective personal ministry has to do primarily with what kind of a life do you lead? What kind of an attitude do you have? Because you will not be good in ministry or good in leadership just because you know stuff. You will only be a good leader and good in ministry if you have the character of Jesus Christ. People of the Christian church need character first and best so that we're like Jesus. We don't just know Bible. Because knowledge puffs up, the Bible says in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, but love edifies or builds up. And Paul says, listen guys, start your leadership by how you live, not just what you know. Now, that doesn't mean stay ignorant. That doesn't mean going to school's bad. Hey, get all the education you can, get all of the training you can, get all the experience you can, but remember that your life is what's going to speak and what's going to be remembered, and that is particularly true with today's postmodern thinking. They don't care how much you know. They don't care if you got Reverend in front of your name. They don't care how old you are or how much experience you've had. What they care about is, are you a cool person? Can I hang out with you? Do you love me? Do you care about me? Do you have time for me? Because they're sick and tired of having people who are aloof and distant and unavailable and who live a life that's totally unhuman. We loved you so much that we wanted to impart to you not only the gospel, but our own lives as well. Servant leadership, servant ministry. And guys, I tell you what, if we don't start being these kinds of leaders, we're not only not biblical, we're not only not giving the true picture of the Christian faith to the world, but we're going to lose everybody in today's generation because they're not interested in titles. They're not interested in knowledge. They're not interested in what degrees you have. They want to know how much you love them and how much you want to serve them.